Hey, it's Sky. If you see this creature moving around over here, this is my third time attempting this. So my ESA CG, black and white cat, is kind of hovering around me because he senses that I've gotten myself a little upset trying to make this video. So he's hovering close to protect me, to guard me. Right now he is laying with his back to me, facing the doorway. He's a good cat. So my first unpopular opinion is that single-use plastics are at this time inaccessible for everyone. Now I know that there's a lot of people who seem to give out the vibe that if you use any single-use plastics, you are an awful person, and you cannot be zero waste if you use single-use plastics at all, etc., etc. But especially right now with the coronavirus, with COVID-19 going on, it is okay to use single-use plastics. Single-use plastics, yes, do need to be cut down where accessible, where permittable. But it is okay to use single-use plastics if you are zero waste. Now, I'm not going to get too heavily into it because that's why I've had to re-record this a few times, because I've gotten off on a tangent that will be, maybe, probably not, a whole other video. But the two things that I really want to bring up with single-use plastics are okay to use, and that is plastic straws. Plastic straws are very heavily debated right now in the zero waste community, in population, society is the word, in general, because of the Save the Turtle trend that happened last year. I think the Save the Turtle trend is over for the most part. I know the girls are over for the most part, thankfully. But you are not a bad person if you use plastic straws. If you are able to use reusable straws, then do it. If you are incapable of using plastic straws, that is completely valid. You are still able to be a part of the zero waste community if you have to use plastic straws, or if you use one occasionally because you forgot your straw, or you have straws, you just forgot to ask to not have one, and then you don't want it to go to waste because you already have it. It's not like they can take it back. What are you going to do with it? You either use it or it goes to waste, so you might as well use it so that single-use plastic has a reason to be used, or reason to be recycled. The second one is food containers. Food containers are a huge use of single-use plastics. They are an incredibly huge industry of plastics being used to store food. Now, yes, you can go to a bulk store, maybe. You can find it in cardboard packaging, maybe. But that's not accessible for everyone. Bulk stores are kind of a privilege to be able to go to. And before you jump up on me because, oh, you used privilege, because I know how some people are with that word, hear me out. Bulk stores, bulk food stores are not accessible for everyone. not only are they higher in price, they usually only are around in more developed areas. So if you live in a more low income area, the likelihood of you finding an accessible to get to bulk food store is not going to be as high as someone who lives in, say, New York or Kansas City. The other aspects of that, besides accessibility and cost, is allergens. I personally cannot step foot into a bulk food store. If I do, even with my mask, which I am a chronic mask user, I've worn a mask for almost 3 years now. I wear a mask every time I leave the house for my asthma and my allergies. Even with my mask that's filtered, I can't trust going into a bulk food store because there is no separation of top 8 allergens and everything else. Every single bulk grocery aisle, bulk store, anything like that I have ever been to, the foods that I would eat are directly next to the foods that would kill me if not only I were to eat, but if we're to have any cross contact exposure. So if someone used the scoop in the nuts and then used it over in the legumes next to it, that could kill me. And there are plenty of people like that out there. Not to even get into the lesser known, so basically any allergen that's not part of the top 8 allergen. So even if they fixed the top 8 allergen, there would still be that other issue. One of my other would kill me instantly, would be a life or death situation if it even came close to me, is tomatoes. And I have gone into not only anaphylactic shock, but then secondary anaphylactic shock while at the hospital because tomatoes were cooking around me in the same house that I was in. Not the same room, the same house. People with allergens cannot go to these stores safely. And so it is not accessible to everyone. So saying, oh, just go to a bulk food store or just buy it in bulk is not accessible. And yeah, there are online options. If you're lucky enough to find an online option that wouldn't wrap it in plastic, which yes, I have seen buying things in bulk and then it comes in plastic and it kind of, not fully because you're still buying it in bulk, which is something that is better than buying small, but kind of defeats the purpose. Still better, but still kind of defeats the purpose that you're buying things in bulk and then it still comes in plastic. But even if it doesn't, you still don't know what it came in cross contact with. Because bulk foods, you cannot know unless people are smart and people don't do stupid things like scoop out of something and then scoop out of another, which unfortunately people do. I've worked in the restaurant industry for years. My husband has worked in the restaurant industry for years. Both of us have seen things that would make others just never want to eat out again. Because people are so gross with food. People who don't have allergens sometimes aren't even aware sometimes that they're doing something like that. Like, think of how many times in your own house. I mean, obviously in your own house it doesn't matter, but think of how many times in your own house you're just like, well, I'm going to make myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So I'm just going to use the knife for both. So you get into that habit, and then you don't think about it when you're out in public. And you do the same thing. Or you use the tongs at a buffet to pick up more than one food. It's just something that some people do without thinking about. Yeah, some people do it just because, I don't care, it doesn't bother me. But there are some people who don't think about it. So bookstores are not accessible to everyone, which means that single-use plastics are the most accessible thing, are the most sanitary thing, are the least likely to kill you kind of thing. So that's just one of the examples of it's okay to use single-use plastics. Yes, cut back if you can. Please cut back if you can. We are looking at the world is almost, if not already, at a place of no return. But if you can't in every single aspect, that is completely valid. You are completely okay. And you can still be zero waste while using single-use plastics. Unpopular opinion 2. Being zero waste does not mean you have to be minimalistic or vegan or even vegetarian for that matter. There is a concept that if you are zero waste, then you are a minimalist. And while I personally am, for the most part, there are some aspects of my life, like with my craft stuff, that I'm not. But while I personally am mostly a minimalist, it is okay not to be a minimalist. You don't have to be a minimalist to be zero waste. You don't have to be a vegan or a vegetarian to be zero waste. Yes, ideally, and I'm not saying ideally you would be, I'm saying ideally if you aren't vegan or vegetarian, you would buy more sustainable meats, like go to a butcher or like buy a whole cow. Ideally, that's how you would do it, but that's, again, not accessible for everyone. Personally, where I live, there isn't a butcher around here. There is no butcher around here. The closest butcher is within reason. It's like a 45 to an hour drive from here. But that would be, it's not incredibly accessible, especially for low income, which I'm on disability. I don't even need to explain to people that being on disability means I'm low income. Y'all get it. And if you don't, or if you say, oh, that's free money, then why are you on my page? I'm Spoonie. Nice to meet you. And while we're on the topic, not really related, but while we are on the topic, minimalist does not mean plain. There is some weird concept that I've seen in the minimalist community that people seem to think that if you are a minimalist, you have white walls, you have a completely cleared off countertop in your kitchen, you have like next to no furniture, next to no clothes. Minimalism to everyone means something different. And like, I'm not going to turn the camera because, God, you don't want to see over there. We are a month away from giving birth, so it is a train wreck over there. But my closet, which is right over there, We can fit my husband's and my clothes in the doorway of our double wide huge closet. The rest of the closet is either empty or has just random crap sitting there because we're just like, don't know what else to do with this for now, so just chuck it in the closet, which just isn't a lot. It's just like occasional random things. But that's minimalist for us. Someone else could be minimalist, but they have a job where they need to have several different outfits. So their closet may be bigger, and that's okay. There is no set in stone way to be minimalist. There's no set in stone way to be zero waste. And the concept that there is really it needs to stop if this toxicity in our communities is ever going to end. Which is why people are afraid to join the zero waste community. I have talked to so many people over the years who are interested in the zero waste community, but they're afraid to get into it because there are the commenters in the zero waste community saying that, oh, you don't care about the planet at all if you do X, Y, or Z, or people who have message wanting to get into the vegan community but are afraid to because of the comments that was said, the comments like what was said to me on how I should have just killed myself instead of eating cheese. There is toxicity that needs to end, and a big part of that is people thinking that there's a rule book. There's no rule book to how to be zero waste, how to be minimalist. You doing what you personally can do is what makes you a zero waster. And my third and final unpopular opinion for this video is kind of just a general rule for everything, and that's mental health matters. Mental health is so much more important than being zero waste, is so much more important than being perfect at being zero waste. If you are in a bad place and you need to take a break and stop thinking about all of this, that's okay. If you are someone who gets comfort out of something that isn't zero waste and you're in a bad place, it's okay to use that comfort. You need to take care of you. That is your number one priority, has to be you. And yes, taking care of this earth that we live in is so important and needs to be addressed. But saving the earth cannot be addressed if you are dead. Plainly and simply. Spreading awareness about zero waste, inspiring others to make zero waste changes is not going to happen if you are gone. You need to be here. You are loved, and you have to do what is best to take care of yourself. Speaking of which, this video was really hard for me to make because it brought up a lot of not good memories of when I attempted to be a part of the zero waste community. I am someone who is zero waste, but I do not participate in any online forums. I only have, I think, one couple of friends who are zero waste. No one else I know is zero waste because I can't participate in the zero waste community because of issues I've had with ableism, mainly in the past. So I am going to end this video and go back to working on my candy panel, which is plastic beads, because that's what comforts me, that's what calms me down. And that is just an example of you have to put yourself first, even if it's not zero waste. And if anyone ever needs anyone to talk to, I know this year has been so hard on so many of us. But no, you're not alone. And you will get through this.